Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the Executive Encore podcast, and we're very happy for you to be with us today. Welcome to today's episode, where we empower women senior executives, women business owners, and professionals to live and perform at their very best by remastering their life and work. I'm Patricia Muir, your host today. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic that truly resonates with our audience of trailblazing women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Probably too common and too often in our life. If you've been struggling with energy dips and hormone changes, or feeling like your health goals are slipping further away, this episode is for you. And just a note about our live broadcast today, we are having some energy dips in our internet connections. So if we do lose connection, please know that we will follow up at a later date with the full video. Our topic today is holistic health for women executives. And we'll cover 3 transformational insights from our guest to help you remaster your health in a sustainable and empowering way. Before we begin, please do not forget to subscribe and share this podcast with other women in your life. Now, let's jump in. Let's meet Abraham Anjarkochian. And Abraham is not just a dietitian, he's a game changer. He's armed with a master's degree in human nutrition from McGill University and an outstanding academic record from the University of Toronto, where he was awarded the prestigious Silver Medal for Academic Excellence. Abraham stands at the pinnacle of his field. What sets him apart? He takes a holistic approach to nutrition. He emphasizes that every aspect of well-being, including sleep, stress, our hormones, our metabolism, and movement, is a piece of the puzzle and plays a vital role in holistic approaches. Together, they form the foundation for redefining and optimizing your life and work. So, Abraham, welcome very much to the podcast today. And we're going to jump right into your 3 insights with number 1. Okay. So, here's an eye opener that many of us aren't talking about enough. Abraham, could you please explain the connection between inflammation, gut health, and weight management and critical illness such as cancer?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, Patricia, for having me. And yes, absolutely. So let us start with inflammation. What is inflammation? I would like to redefine it for our audience to be very clear. So inflammation is the body's natural defense mechanism. Think of it as your immune system way of fighting off infections, injuries, or toxins. But here's the catch. While short-term or acute inflammation is helpful, chronic inflammation is a different story. Chronic inflammation is like a fire that never gets put out. It keeps burning and damaging your cells, organs, and tissues over a long period of time. Now, this type of inflammation has been linked to a host of chronic diseases, including heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and even obesity. And guess what? One of the biggest drivers of chronic inflammation is also goes with poor gut health. Now, your gut isn't just about digestion. It houses trillions of bacteria, collectively known as your gut microbiome. These bacteria play a crucial role in regulating inflammation, nutrient absorption, and even immune function. Now, when your gut microbiome is kind of balanced, it supports a strong immune system and keeps inflammation in check. But when it's out of balance due to maybe processed foods, stress, antibiotics, or lack of fiber, it can lead to something called leaky gut. So this is when your gut lining becomes damaged, allowing harmful substances to leak into your bloodstream, and that will be triggering chronic inflammation. And when inflammation kind of runs wild in your body, it increases the risk of developing serious conditions, including cancer. So how does this all kind of tie into cancer? Well, chronic inflammation creates an environment where the cancer cells can thrive. It damages the DNA, promotes uncontrolled cell growth, and weakens your immune defense. So that makes it easier for the tumors to develop and spread. And
Mm,
here is the kicker. Research shows that the gut health plays a direct role in cancer prevention. A healthy gut kind of produces benefits compound that kind of reduce inflammation and also detoxifies harmful substances. Meanwhile, an unhealthy gut filled with harmful bacteria can actually increase the production of carcinogens, raising your cancer risk. So, this is why nutrition is so powerful. What you eat can either fuel inflammation or fight it, similarly to the cancer. So, how kind of bring how it now it also can impact your weight loss into the picture. If you have been struggling to lose weight despite kind of eating well and exercising, chronic inflammation could actually also link into obesity or gaining weight, because inflammation affects hormones like insulin and cortisol, which control your metabolism and kind of fat storage. When these hormones are out of balance, your body can hold on to fat, especially around that belly area. So,
mhm,
on top of that, poor gut health can mess with your hunger hormones, making you feel constantly hungry or crave kind of unhealthy food. So,
mhm.
if you want to kind of lose weight effectively, reducing inflammation and healing your gut is also a key, besides just developing the chronic other conditions.
Could I pop in with a question here? We seem to see this happening in our lives, especially women at certain times of our life, right? Our metabolism changes. What are some of the signs, obvious signs, where we don't realize that we have crossed that line into inflammation? Like, I know when we think of inflammation, we think of a swelling around our joints and things like that. But I can tell you, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had none of the usual risk factors. Um, I do believe one of the risk factors was stress, definitely. But what were some of the things that, if I had noticed in my body, where I could have said, okay, this is inflammation that's sneaking up on me?
Mhm.
Is there an answer to that?
This is a very great question and can have a broad answer to it. But like sometimes, absolutely, you are right. It's not that obvious, and it's not about like when we say the knife reach into our bone where we are exploring this thing. So here are a couple of signs that can really kind of help you identify, or you want to maybe check, because number one is literally checking your CRP, which is C-reactive protein. This is a marker in your blood that can show about like how much of inflammation going in your body. And sometimes you can have a high inflammation in your body going because of various reasons, but you are not necessarily feeling any symptoms. You might not feel like a pain or tiredness, but that doesn't mean that you aren't having inflammation because of not feeling those symptoms. So it's similar some kind of cancers when they grow without you feeling until like it gets into the bad stages. So it the best way to do is basically first, again, if you are kind of tapping on the basics from your stress levels, your sleep hygiene, because those are things that we kind of underestimate their impact until it's too late. And also sometimes it's the missing or hindered hidden factors that actually cause a problem, but we don't put so much weight onto them, because what happened is, again, as the names imply, it's chronic, right? You don't just like build an inflammation related chronic condition in one day or 1 week or 1 month even, right? It's over years. If you're depriving yourself from your sleep, if you are chronically stressed like several years, like 5, 10 years, that is going to be the kind of the manifestation of
Mhm,
this kind of diseases, because over those years you had inflammation in your body, that have not spoke to you because you didn't have the symptoms. Some of the symptoms that you might see, kind of the energy flow of your day. So if you are kind of waking up not fully rested, or have a foggy brain, or you have seen your hair loss or thinning of hair, those are some symptoms. Or if you are having gut distresses, like if you have some constipation, diarrhea, or something like that, those are also kind of some signs. Or if you are in your cycle and you lose period, those are also all kind of indirect signs of probably inflammation happening in your body. So if that kind of answers your question.
Yes, it does. And I was thinking, there's so much going on for us in each phase of our life that actually work together to bring on inflammation. And I'll just mention, like, if you're stressed out during your transition through menopause, and you're not getting enough sleep as much as you try, then you're almost like prone at that time. Or if you have a lot of stress at that time, you're prone for all those symptoms. So, we'll talk about this in a minute, but, managing inflammation, from what you're saying, isn't just about controlling our waistline. It's very much about giving our body the tools to thrive. So could you quickly give us some action tips, or one tip maybe? You've talked about how we can recognize inflammation, but how can we perhaps prevent it?
Great question. Yes, absolutely. So, as you have mentioned, we sometimes so focus on the physical aspect and not the mental and internal aspect. And that I see also with one-on-one clients when they come in and we are speaking about, let's say, weight loss. But then we talk
Mm.
about, like, here's the thing: the indirect cause of your weight gain or not able or struggling to lose weight could be the hidden factors that you are not tapping into them. Because in the media nowadays there is so much about, like, in and out, and that's how you lose weight, but that's not as simple as it sounds. It's not about, like, we are speaking about, like, nutrition and exercise, and that's becomes the hidden factors from hormone perspective, from metabolic perspective, and from inflammation perspective. So one tip that I can give, this is the most, again, undervalued tip in order to reduce your body inflammation, is listening to your body, not kind of suppressing the body's needs by indulging with caffeinated beverage more. For example, if you are one big tip, don't have like a coffee at kind of a night time when you are trying. I understand sometimes, yes, we need to stretch and we need to work more hours and longer hours. However, just think about it, that we have our own limitation. And sure, if you are young or you're currently being able to kind of do that, but you will pay it off later on in life. So we are paying off now or later. So you want to take care of your current healthy body to
Mm.
be able to have a health span, not lifespan. I always tell that, right? Because here's a couple of things what happens. Like, let's say a caffeine is gonna bind with the same receptor into which the compound that bind into your receptors in the nerve system that triggers tiredness. So
Mm.
what you're basically doing, you're exhausting your sympathetic nervous system by numbing your receptors with caffeine, and you're feeling that you have
Oh,
more energy, right?
oh,
Whereas in reality, but what you're doing is you're further pushing the extent that your
yeah,
nervous system can work
yeah.
by not letting that feeling. Like, it's the same effect as anesthesia, right? When you kind of numb, if you have to the dentist and you don't want to feel, you just like put that numbness, right? So you're numbing that kind of feeling of tiredness, which in what it turns is inflammation, because you're pushing into a place where your cells are going to start working against you, and that also going to disturb your sleep. Many women who come to me also because of like, not necessarily just the coffee, because of overall stress, because of not necessarily nourishing properly, they are also kind of having the sleeplessness, or kind of not necessarily having proper sleep. So the the big two kind of things that can impact you the most by reducing inflammation, honestly, are: number one, making sure that you have at least 7 hours of sleep per day. And if you're going to be someone telling me I'm going to be fine if I sleep 6, yes, no one said that no, you won't be fine. But the problem is, if you do your labs, would you see the CRP levels at the place that you would be hoping for, or that will favor a good longevity life? That's the question, right? It's not about the moment. It's about like 10, 20, 40, 50 years from now, how that will impact you. So sleep is number one, absolutely a stress. Number two is, and I'm not going to be here negligent about like you can live without stress. No, stress is inevitable, but there is ways of kind of either changing the response to stressors or handling them in a different
Mhm.
way, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
absolutely third one comes nutrition, because you cannot like negate your intake, and that's also going to play big role. So the easiest way to reduce in body inflammation when it comes to nutrition is to go to whole food, buys like refined processed food. That's itself going to make you a huge favor. So I think those three tips, I can give it something that right away, if you do it, you see, if you and you haven't been following or tracking those, significantly going to reduce your CRPs.
Mhm. I found it very interesting what you said about coffee, because I think this is something that women senior executives and business owners and professionals rely on to push them through whatever's going on. We work long hours, and uh, I say that coffee doesn't affect me at night. I know it does for some people and they stay away from it. But the very fact that if I take coffee at that time with the idea that I'm going to be able to work a couple extra hours, I'm actually working against my body signaling to me saying, enough's enough, you're tired, stop this. So I think that was a really good point that I had never thought of before. So I hope other people pick up on their own insights on this.
Yes, and I will add on to that, especially when it comes to energy. I would say there is way more, like, because here's the thing, sometimes we mix between having energy, or what are the things that we can do to enhance our energy to be more productive in the day, vice what it means like having coffee. Coffee doesn't give you energy, it just numbs the
Just
tiredness.
numbs it. Yeah, yeah.
Whereas energy, if you have like, there's many times we do all the whole different things that kind of doesn't give us the energy. And if you tap into the right metrics and have that energetic foods, and the sleep and the stress is tuned in, you will see how much more productive you will be, and how much more energy you will have without even having that coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. So I'd like to get on to our next talking point. Okay, so now for a topic that affects every woman who's listening, and some parts of our lives, definitely, but I think they're always hopping around, and that's the hormones and our metabolism. Can you give us a bit more of your thoughts and insight on hormones, metabolism versus the simple exercise and nutrition for optimal health? That's what you talk about, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is where it comes between the complexity and simplicity of losing weight, right? Because I know there is sometimes we are fed into the media, especially when it comes to kind of fad diets or cookie cutting methods, where we speak about like, I don't know, ketogenic diet, paleo diet, NOM, Weight Watchers, move this, put this. First, they bring you into very unrealistic expectation that doesn't necessarily foster a good, healthy, sustainable lifestyle shift.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, some of those, if they are not necessarily subjectively individualized enough to consider the person's kind of background, from medical conditions to the age to kind of where they are standing for. Because if you end up having some certain conditions, and on top of that you follow something like that, you might further end up hurting your metabolism and
Mm-hmm.
hormone by kind of, again, impacting your thyroid, impacting your cortisol, insulin, and that's gonna kind of resist your body from seeing any progress, and along with building kind of frustration, because you will go and turn and to yourself and say, wow, I'm kind of like eating perfectly healthy. I'm following a deficit. I am kind of exercising on a daily basis. However, I'm not seeing any progress or any movement on the scale. And believe it or not, those hormones and metabolism can be so resistance because our human evolution been longer period in scarcity and famine than food abundance. So we are better, our body are better at preserving energy than spending energy. So if you are not doing correctly, or you have kind of starving yourself for so many months, and along with exercising, you are working against your body, and your body is smart enough to push those hormones in a way that will disfavor you and sometimes cause chronic conditions down the line. Now, beside might be your hormones are changed because of not doing, let's say, nutrition and exercise correctly. We also, women, have transitioning periods from especially between your late 30s to mid 50s, where all that Hashimoto might arise, the PCOS might arise, and those are other kind of hormonal problems that if you don't check, if you don't understand how to navigate, how to correct them, that's going to keep you very frustrated. And also, if you're following something that is not addressing the corporate, if it's not like individualized, if it's not necessarily kind of looking into your unique lab values, if the unique situation about your stress and sleep and how you navigate your intake, you are going to harm yourself as well, not just not see
Mhm.
the result, right?
Mhm.
So that's how important comes, and I see this all over with all the women who come to me and they tried a variety of various those kind of fat diets, and they still either they have been in the vicious cycle of yo-yo dieting where they go down and up, because again, that's they follow something rigidly, and on top of that, it's
Mhm.
not their fault, it's not their fault. The media is bombarded with all this kind of constantly new trendy kind of quick very attractive fixes, which is not going to last long, and you're only going to realize once you're there, right? And
Mhm.
on the other hand, is not necessarily addressing the core problem that will put this off for good.
Mhm. Mhm. So, what I know you do work with women over the age of 35. What would be an actionable tip that you would give them regarding their hormones and the metabolism at this point?
Mhm. Great question. Now, definitely, if you, first of all, it's hard if you to kind of tackle on hormones and metabolism without professional expertise
Mm-hmm.
advice, because these are beyond just like random calories and macros we are talking about, and it can be dangerous if it's like you don't just like you pull your teeth when you have a problem in your mouth, right? You go to your dentist. Same when you have problem with your heart, you go to your cardio. Like when you have a hormonal or metabolic issue that you're thinking of, it's the best way first to seek a help from a professional healthcare. But let's say if you are willing to make sure that you're not having, or you to not harm your metabolism, what I would say to do is basically making sure that you are first. One thing I see, number one cause of hormonal dysregulation and metabolic dysregulation is underfeeding yourself for a long time, and especially going below BMR. Let me quickly just mention what is BMR. BMR is basal metabolic rate. This is part of the energy expenditure of your body that your body requires the minimum that in order to survive. This is basically when you are lying on the bed and doing nothing exactly for 24 hours. That's the amount of energy you will basically spend.
Oh,
If
okay.
you eat anything below that mark,
Uh-huh.
your body start going to fight you, and those where things go south from in hormone perspective. So in order to make sure that you not get there, you also need to be going on your deficit fat loss phase, because here's the thing. So there is like one of the big problem is staying on a deficit for long run without having an exit plan, which I see people who get into those fat diets. You need to understand that you cannot expect to lose weight non-stop continuously by keeping the calories low. You need to understand that you need to go through fat loss phase, dieting break, maintenance phase, and in a path that actually doesn't harm you, and also is sustainably you can keep off that.
Yeah.
So that's very important. Now, beside that, of course, there's sometimes it's not about like you've been under calories for long. Definitely sometimes it's just like, again, it's the transition from you being kind of from the period to no period, like this premenopausal, menopausal transition, or those are different stories, and this is, you don't much have a control over it. It happens regardless of how you eat. But then at that point, I would say just seek a help from professional, because it's hard for you to understand or do, because you need to do labs, you need to interpret those labs and understand a strategic plan on how to navigate and fix them.
Mm-hmm. That's good advice. I don't think many of us have the experts at hand, even in our GP sometimes, to be able to really evaluate what's going on with our hormones. Excuse me. But this is all about our natural body rhythms, right, through a lifetime. So we're talking about our life and our work on this podcast. So there's one controversial perspective that you have, and that is around the transformation beyond the scale. And what we mean by that is the scale that you step onto, right? Could you tell us what your insights are and what your perspective is about it being beyond the scale?
Yes, absolutely. Now, this is another thing that the social media feeds us upon and create that kind of the perception or wrong perception of our health, right? And longevity. So when we speak about health and longevity and being good, it doesn't mean that the only one marker is the scale. No, because
Mhm.
like there are many, many other factors that you need to make sure that you are on the right spot. As we spoke in the very first topic about inflammation. So, having lower body inflammation, having more energy throughout the day without relying on energy drinks or caffeinated beverages, making sure that you are being able to kind of feel strong and live strong, let's say at the gym, being able to carry on kind of a daily task as you are aging and in your 80s and 90s, not developing any type of chronic conditions from diabetes to cardiovascular disease to cancer, are all the bigger picture on how and why you want to fix them, fixing those hormones, getting into your better sleep. If you're like feeling that before you were kind of having distracted sleeps, we wake up with a foggy brain, and now you can sleep continuously 7 8 hours, you wake up super energetic with clear headed, you are performing much better in your workplace, in your family, in your relationship. Those are way more bigger wins. Or even more, if you also know how to navigate your vacation, your kind of celebration from Christmas or New Year, those are big wins, because some of especially again those cookie cutting methods that out there, they don't necessarily tell you what to do. And like this is not possible. Like we need to think it's not mentally and okay for you to kind of isolate yourself from. And I see this again and again when clients come to me, and I will be shocked, right? Like I have clients who would be like, oh, I wouldn't go with my daughter's birthday because I need to have that cake, and then I am in
Yeah.
a calorie deficit and I'm in a keto. I was like, oh my goodness, how much impacting, right? Like how much it will impact your mental health, your soul. Those are things you need to understand. It matters because you need to take as a holistic. It's not just a number on the scale. And another thing is like how your body feels, how you fit in the clothes, how the progresses in between the pictures change. Because if you are also working on gaining muscle mass, which has more weight than fat, you might not see much of a shift on the scale. But when you see your pictures, when you wear your clothes, you feel the difference and you feel more confident, you feel the change. That's why scale is not going to give you the whole picture on how well are you doing, how far you came, or how healthy you are. So keep that in mind, that what you really want truly is making sure when you get into your late 90s, even 100 at this time, you are able to function properly, be independent, making able to do daily simple tasks from grocery, going to your home, and traveling without relying on someone or being in long-term care or even confining to bed, right? So no one wants like living long and their last 10, 15 years being in bed, right? Everyone wants to live a good, healthy, long life.
Yeah, yeah, and healthy, long life. But you have also said it's not just about living longer; it's about having a better life, isn't it? It's living better. So all those things that you mentioned about guilt-free meals with your family, so that you don't feel that you miss out on those connections because you have to deny yourself of that birthday cake or something like that, right? So it's looking at our whole life holistically and what is a nice quality of life for us, right? Rather than depriving ourselves or, as you had mentioned, about trying to squeeze into a size or something like that that is dictated by the fashion industry or something like that. But it's about being healthy, right? So what would be one actionable tip that you'd share in this particular controversial perspective that you have?
Mhm. One thing I would say is the best way to start with. What I would suggest is literally have a journal, and the next 3 days journal how you are running your day. And then, because here's another thing, sometimes, especially this comes around the New Year's resolution days, we want to change everything at once, right? And we think that the next day, on the 1st of January, we will wake up as a different person, being able to completely shift our life in instant moment. And that's not gonna work, even though motivation is high, maybe another 1 or 2 months. But we human are a routine-based creatures, and research shows that one change at a time has an 85% success rate. And if you that increase to 2 or 3, it goes all the way to 15%. So right, so
Mm,
what I would suggest here is write down everything you do, and then after 3 days go and check what is one thing that we have spoke maybe today that you are not necessarily doing that great about it, and start shifting that one thing in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And then once that habit you build and put in place, see what is the next anchor or next shift that you want to do.
mm,
Those small steps that you take, small shift that you do, is the one that's going to bring the ripple effect down the line and put you in the right lifestyle, right habits, that you will create sustainability. So you will not only indirectly lose your weight, get the health benefits of it, but also you created an enjoyable process. Because that's another thing, many of those fat diets people won't enjoy it, and people doing for the sake of the just number going down, but they hate everything that includes, from like
yeah, yeah,
having carbs, and or they are dreaming about it, right? Because whatever retreats from us, we always attracted to it. So we need to understand that that's not going to create any sustainability. If anything, it's going to create eating disorders, binging down the line, food relationship issues. So whereas if you do this kind of an action, and if you take it one step at a time and build something enjoyable, fits your lifestyle, realistic, and you can kind of stick to it longer run, that is true sustainable outcome.
good, good. So I'm going to just bullet points talk about what we've learned or what was reinforced today, because I think sometimes we've heard these things, but we haven't, like you said, we haven't put it into our daily life. We've heard it, we've read it, and then there could be something that we're not doing. So one of the points that I learned today is that health isn't just a part of your life; it's the very foundation for everything that we're doing. Right? From for my audience, it's like leading their teams, it's building their businesses, it's nurturing their families and themselves. So we need energy and vitality and resounding self trust to show up fully, and that's the foundation that helps us to take care of ourselves. So the other thing that I picked up on, I'll repeat this, it's not about squeezing into a size. It's about transforming the way you live. Okay. So
Yep.
what if you have to go up a size for a little while? Like, as long as you're aware of, your aim is to live better, like better quality of life for a longer time of life. Like you were saying, Abraham, like it would be wouldn't it be wonderful if we were in our last 30 years or even our last 10 years and we are enjoying that rather than being ill, like chronically ill? So I hope today's episode gave our listeners the insight and motivation to approach their health as a dynamic, ongoing process rather than, you mentioned it, a quick fix goal. Like that's the New Year's Eve
Yeah,
resolution, right? So if you're going to dig deeper into this holistic approach, connect with Abraham. He is helping women over the age of 35 to unlock the best versions of themselves. The links will be in the show notes. And I'd like to ask Abraham to share a quick story about when one of your clients, Abraham, realized that it was more than the scale and more about remastering her life and work to live better. Could you share something without any names?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So here's the funny story. It's like, yes, one of the clients, which actually have on the testimonial videos too, but she actually came to me just completely different story here. She came to me because she was again very frustrated with her weight, and weight was the only kind of concern that she was looking at. And then when we were deep looking at her labs, for example, there was blood pressure going on, there was cholesterol going on, but she never mentioned those to me. And I was like, but have you noticed like these are the markers that is also impacting you? Because especially blood pressure, it can interrupt your actual sleep, and it can also cause headaches over the day. And we were like again looking at as we have spent like the first maybe 1 or 2 months working specifically on her sleep and stressors. And again, I still didn't know about that until she did like lab result, and she was telling me that, oh, by the way, Abraham, you know that my cholesterol came to normal and the blood pressure. I was like, you know, this is like more important than the weight last, because it's that at that time we lost almost 8 pounds only, but she were here for losing 40 pounds. And I was like, you know that this kind of getting rid of your, because she was on statin, and she wasn't on the blood pressure medication as of yet, but she was on a statin. And then the doctor even asked her to not take it anymore. And I was like, you know that that's alone, because of the side effect and all the long-term
Mhm.
impact that will affect on your cardiovascular health, is way more valuable for you than like the, I know it's also important for us to look good, feel comfortable and confident, then but the weight that you got. So it's always, I say, look into all that bigger win, let the reward be your weight loss rather than just like concentrating on the scale going down. So
Oh,
let that be a reward of working, that bringing everything else into good health and good perspective.
okay. Okay. That's a great story. So, Abraham, you're going to actually, the link to your Facebook is on the streamer at the bottom there. Abraham has a great Facebook group. If you're interested, go on and join. And some other information for connecting with Abraham is going to be in the show notes. He does have a special offer for listeners for a call. I think you said a clarity call, right? So that would be great for those women who are interested in that. Is there anything else before I go into a conclusion, Abraham, that you'd like to point out?
No, I think you have mentioned everything, and also, yeah. So the clarity call, just wanted to mention that it is completely free. What I do in Dallas call, I audit, I go over your concern, I give you kind of an idea what can you do, and that's what we do. And in the Facebook group, I go weekly. We have workshop every single Monday, and we have tons of value that we provide. So just to give a bit more of elaboration on those kind of what links, what are they about?
Good, good. That's great. Okay, so thank you again, Abraham, and thank you to your listeners and to my listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to Executive Encore for more empowering conversations such as this with thought leaders and with other women who are going through similar experiences in developing their Executive Encore. If this episode today resonated with you, please share it with a friend. We all know someone who yearns for more energy and good health. Like I yearn for energy, that's for sure. Please leave a comment and join in on the discussion on YouTube and LinkedIn. So please subscribe to YouTube and the podcast channel on whatever platform you enjoy. Please add your comments. They're so important for you to engage, not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of the community. And visit my website at patriciamuir.com. Read my weekly blog and follow me on LinkedIn. Subscribe to the Sunday newsletter as soon as you can, because that's where you will see Abraham featured this Sunday, March 2nd. From here, I will put together a blog bringing all that information and sort of melding it with my insights as well. And then in the newsletter, I will be featuring Abraham's video and his call to action. And all links will be available for you. So this is where your Executive Encore begins. Until next week, take care of yourself, do what's best for you, and don't jeopardize what you've built for yourself. And I have a little extra quote for you this week. True transformation is about creating sustainable, healthy lifestyle that leaves you feeling stronger, energized, and fully alive. The goal is to not just to live longer, it's to live better. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a great week.
Thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure.